So, good evening, my friends. Today we will talk about dragon, popularly known as China, because not many people around the world knows about the soft underbelly of dragon. Let it be a crocodile or let it be a dragon, all of these creatures have their soft underbellies. They may look hard, but the underbelly is really soft. And people think that China is a huge geographic mass and it is homogeneously red and very happy and prosperous country. But if you go in details, you will find that there are so many loopholes and it is very difficult to keep this country intact for a long time. And there are many myths about China regarding the prosperity of China, regarding the homogeneity of Chinese state, and similar type of myths were there few decades back regarding USSR as well. And we garner this type of myths for these communist countries because the outflow of information from these countries is blocked by the iron curtain and iron wrist. But when the system calls the case of Yugoslavia or in the case of USSR, the truth came out in front of the world, and one day it will come surely about China as well. The huge geographic structure of this country, which we call as People's Republic of China, is basically not that huge, because the core of this Chinese race is it is made up by Han Chinese people. Though Han Chinese people constitute 90% of Chinese population, but geographical landmass wise, if you talk about, they constitute only 1/3 of the total area. They are the dwellers of just 1/3 of the total Chinese landscape. 2/3 are ethnically different, racially different, culturally different, and they have been subjected to the severe form of pressure by the communist regime, by the iron curtain, as well as the iron wrist. Let it be the northeast of China or Inner Mongolia or Xinjiang or the elsewhere call as Manchuria, the three provinces of elsewhere Manchuria. These all are subjected to pressure, and they are there in the People's Republic of China, a part of People's Republic of China due to muscle and money of the state, and not by their own will. These provinces, these areas, and the people, they are suffering under the communist iron wrist since decades, and they are struggling there, but we don't know what is going on there. Fortunately, lot of things about Xinjiang we are knowing, about Hong Kong, but not everywhere. And if you talk about classical China, which is made by the Han Chinese race, we call it popularly as Chinese heartland or mainland China. It consists of 18 provinces of China, which are the heartland of the Han Chinese people. And these 18 provinces are Anhui, Chile, Fujian, Ganshou, Guangdong, Zhuhong, Hubei, Henan, Zilli, Hunan, Jiangsu, Jianzhai, Shaanxi, Shaanxi, Shandong, Sichuan, Yunnan, and Zhejiang. Rest of the portions which they call as autonomous regions. Autonomous region is nothing but they are the regions which are not the main part of the Chinese race. They are not the heartland China. They are not the mainland China. You can compare it with our USSR. Russia was the mother country, motherland was Russia, the rest all Lithuania, then Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, they were not the heartland, they were the USSR. And similarly, these Chinese call all these areas which are not of Han Chinese origin or not the heartland of China as autonomous regions. And why autonomy? You can understand, because these people do not want to live with China. The history says that they have struggled to come out of China, but they have subjugated by the state or to the state by the Communist Party of China. So we will focus on each of the province, one light upon them. We will start with the province of the autonomous region of Near Mongol or Inner Mongolia. Now what is this Inner Mongolia? It is nothing but basically Mongolia. See, the Chinese empires, or you can say the Han kingdoms built the Great Wall of China to protect their kingdoms from the invasion of Mongolites, Mongol people. So technically, whatever is on the north of the Great Wall of China is Mongolia. And when the Qin dynasty of China collapsed in year 1911, there was Mongolia which wanted to be an independent state. And what they did, they established a khanate under Bogard Khan, who was the descendant of Genghis Khan. Due to the internal politics of Mongolites, some of them went to Beijing for support. And remember, Beijing was not the epicenter of Chinese establishment at that time like today it is. But unfortunately, the Communist Party of China subjugated the southern part of Mongolia, and they created a new state called as Near Mongol or Inner Mongolia, and they call it our autonomous region. Then you have Guangxi. See, Guangxi is located in South China and it is bordering Vietnam. And the Qing dynasty of China recognized it as an independent state till year 1726. And after that, they annexed it, and up till year 1880, it was a region of constant revolt and constant bloodshed. And when the Qing dynasty collapsed in year 1911, Guangxi succeeded to form an independent state. But what happened in year 1929, the Basai uprising, which is popularly known in China as Yongjiang Riots, was instigated by the Communist Party of China under the guidance of the so-called or popularly known as the father of China, Deng Xiaoping, who brought money into China and modernized China. So he was the mastermind behind those riots, and finally they subjugated the province of Guangxi into the People's Republic of China under the Communist Party's fold. But 1920s, this remained an area of major civil wars, and still they are calling it as an autonomous. You can understand why, because public is not happy with China there, so they call it as an autonomous region. And I will repeat, whatever is not the heartland of Han Chinese race, they give it a title of autonomous region. And there is big difference between the prosperity and development of the Han Chinese 18 provinces, about which we talked some time back, and autonomous regions which are not the motherland of these Han Chinese race. So the concept of one OROB, one road, one belt, is basically whatever they may call for economic reasons or what, but they want to communicate it by infrastructure. They want to join these places to the mainland heartland of Han Chinese race. by providing them infrastructure. So the whole concept and whole project of OROB, the mastermind of which is Xi Jinping, is just to keep these provinces under the regime of Communist Party and keep them glued with the 18 provinces which are the heartland of Han Chinese race. Now coming to Xinjiang. Well, about Xinjiang most people know because it is always news centric because of the kind of genocide of the Uyghur Muslim community which China is doing in that province, which they call as autonomous region. And what are these Uyghurs? Uyghurs are also Chinese. Basically, these people are a Caucasian race and they have cultural similarities with Indo-Iranian people. They are basically Turkish Mongol people and Mughal India. During the times of Mughals, India had more connection with Xinjiang than Chinese ever had. The Qing dynasty brought Xinjiang under its control, and it was doing the same thing with this region what the Communist Party of China is doing today, that is changing of the demographies. What they used to do those times, they are doing it even today. They install the Han Chinese people in all the major cities and they try to distort the demography so that in all the power centers, all the commercial hubs, the Han Chinese people, they occupy all the major places. And they are doing it today. They were doing in yester century when Imperial China was ruling this area. And these people, these Uyghur people, call their nation as East Turkestan. They never call it as Xinjiang. They name it as East Turkestan. Xinjiang is the name given by the Chinese to the area. And if you go and see the old English language literature, it was often referred as Chinese Turkestan. It was never called as China even in history. Now coming to the province which is Ningxia. See, Ningxia is what? Ningxia is a small landlocked region in northwest of China, right next to the Great Wall of China, and it is the home of Hui people. And Hui people, these are one of the 50 ethnic minorities officially recognized by the People's Republic of China. And the Imperial China used this region to keep its military outpost to check the Mongol invasions. It was never a part of China. It was again annexed by the Communist Party of China, and they tried their level best to integrate it with the mainland China. In 1954, they incorporated this province with their other Han province named Gonshao, but it finally didn't work. And in 1958 they had to give it autonomy and started calling it by reconstruction as the autonomous region of Ningxia. Then coming to Tibet, which we all know, all heard about because of our connection with Dalai Lama, the exile government of Tibet, which is based in our Dharmshala. Yet another story of Chinese and communist expansionism. See what these Chinese did after annexation of Tibet. They divided it into two parts. One is they call it as Zhejiang, which contains as well, and another one they call it as Qihai. Qihai is on the another side of Himalayas and comparatively closer to the mainland. But the Tibetan government in exile in India, in Dharmshala, the map they present for their future country, which has the capital as Lhasa, it constitutes of both the regions, that is Zhejiang as well as Qinghai. And if you look at the geography of Tibet, Tibet is naturally more approachable from Indian side of Ladakh, the Aksai chain, rather than any part of the heartland China, let it be near to the Guanhai portion. It is not accessible even from there naturally, though they have managed to make roads and railways and all those things. But naturally speaking, Tibet is naturally connected to Indian Ladakh, and as recently, few years back, few decades back, the Maharaja of Jammu and Kashmir used to claim part of Tibet as part of empire. So definitely it is a different country, and because of this geographic access to India, Buddhism went to Tibet from India. And we should all understand that Han people, the Han heartland of China, is basically not Buddhist. They are Confucius. They believe in Confucius or in Taoism. That's a different chapter. We will discuss it some other day. What is the difference between Confucianism and Buddhism? Now coming to the erstwhile Manchuria. See, what is this erstwhile Manchuria? This portion is just not, geographically you imagine, this portion is just north to the Korean peninsula. You have North Korea, you have South Korea, just north to, just upside, you can say, just north to North Korea is the very undeveloped or undeveloped portion of China, which is traditionally called as erstwhile Manchuria. And right now it is having three provinces, and these three provinces are Heilongjiang, Jining and Xinjiang. Heilongjiang is the largest of all, and if you talk about Heilongjiang, the natives of Heilongjiang are known as Mogul Dongu people. They are basically Mongolites, and they are known as Dongu people, and they are also one of the 56 ethnic minorities which are officially recognized by the People's Republic of China. And for most part of the history, this territory was a no-go territory for Han Chinese people, because the rulers were quite strong. They were opposing even the movement of these Han Chinese people through the territory, so it was a no-go land for them. Then come to Jilin. Jilin is also not ethnically Chinese. Then coming to Shanking. In this Shanking province, most of the people are of Korean descent. They are Chinese, but this whole area of erstwhile Manchuria, it came into Chinese fold either as Stalin, USSR's Stalin, or due to support of USSR, because it used to be the colony of Japan. During Second World War, it was a region of conflict between USSR, Soviet forces and Imperial Japanese forces, and once annexed, these areas were handed over to Mao by Stalin, because both were communist. They were all communist buddies. So it was handed over by Stalin to Mao, and this is the reason it came under the fold of China, under the fold of Communist Party of China or People's Republic of China. Now coming to Hong Kong, we all are seeing what's going on in Hong Kong. Though Hong Kong is basically composed of 90% plus Han Chinese people, but since it was handed over by Great Britain in 90s, People's Republic of China, and the people of Hong Kong has tested freedom and freedom of speech and liberty and all these democratic value under the rule of. Now they are resisting the Chinese type of rule. They don't want Hong Kong to be ruled by the classic Chinese and communist way. So despite of all the odds, we can see hundreds of thousands of people every day on the street of Hong Kong. They are demanding their accountancy, they are demanding their democratic rights. So what it looks to me, the future of, not today, maybe not tomorrow, within few decades, the future of China looks like what happened in Yugoslavia, what happened in USSR, because such systems, such autocratic systems, such type of systems, these authoritarian governments, they work well when they have money and muscle, and once they lose either of the two, either money or muscle, the system collapses. These authoritarian governments or authoritarian state doesn't have the luxury of democratic parties that people can form a new government and can remove an unpopular government by peaceful voting, procedure of voting. They don't have that luxury. In such states, in such countries, the entire system collapses due to its own weight, like we saw it in the case of USSR, and then a number of countries come out like splinters from country. So it looks to me that once the Communist Party of China, the system will collapse and it will have the same fate that of Yugoslavia or of USSR, that is the balkanization of country will take place. And who that it can't happen with China? Just go 100 years back. Within 100 years, the 2 times China has been balkanized. When the imperial regime collapsed in 1911, China was balkanized. Then when the Republican forces they collapsed under the communist regime by the communist forces, balkanization. Now when the communist system will collapse, this balkanization will happen. But people doesn't understand China because of very less information coming out of China and a different culture and all those things. People doesn't understand much, so they think that it's a very strong country, but this dragon of China is having soft underbelly. Thank you.